Good day, it's November 24, 2025. The House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate have passed a bill agreeing to the release of the Epstein files. I'm Joe Buban. Welcome to the Pulse. After almost 2 months of stonewalling the House members who wanted the Epstein files to be released, Speaker Mike Johnson finally put the Epstein files release bill on the floor for a discharge vote that passed by a simple majority. Some political analysts said the effort not to have the discharge resolution on the House allowing the release of the Epstein files may have caused the government to be shut down, because calling the session in Congress will render Arizona elected Congress member Adelita Grijalva to be sworn in, and was expected to be the 218th vote to pass the resolution. But in the end, after President Donald Trump made a turnaround and said he wants the Epstein files released, the House of Representatives in a near unanimous vote passed the bill. The yes was 417 and only one no vote. The 5 were not able to vote. 2 Republicans and 3 Democrats. There are now 214 Democratic members and 219 Republican members, with 1 more seats up for grabs during this year's special House election in December for Tennessee's 7th Congressional District, and 1 is in Texas CD18, which is going into a runoff election on January 31st of 2026, who will serve the remainder of the term of the late Congressman Sylvester Turner in February of 2025. The 435-member House of Representatives will not be complete until likely February 1st next year. For those present in Congress, only 1 voted no for the release, and that was Congressman Clay Higgins of Louisiana's Congressional District 6. He explained why he voted no, saying he was always against the release as he didn't want innocent people getting hurt by it. The bill is expected to be signed by President Trump. A federal judge blocked the Texas congressional map that favors Republicans in their mid-decade gerrymandering following Trump's bidding. But first, let's see why Texas 18th District still has no representation in Congress. Well, there were 5 candidates in the special election held on November 4 of 2025. But no one reached more 50% of the votes. So the 2 highest votes candidates will go into a runoff election. On the top is Democrat Christian Dashawn Menefee, who is Harris County attorney that was elected in 2020 as the youngest Black county attorney for Harris County. The second top vote getter was Amanda Edwards, a member of the Houston City Council from 2016 to 2020, also a Democrat. Christian Dashawn Menefee got 28.9% of the votes, while Amanda Edwards got 25.55% of the votes. Republican candidate Carmen Maria Montiel only received 6.71% of the votes, while Isaiah Martin, another Democrat who raised $1 million for his run for Congress, finished at 5.69% of the votes. Now on the first in the nation state to gerrymander in a mid-decade in order to satisfy Trump's wishes, in order to fend off Democratic blue wave in the midterm election, Texas was able to surgically carve out 5 more congressional districts in favor of Republicans. And that is why California voters voted in a referendum in favor of gerrymandering 5 Republican districts to favor Democrats in the mid-year election. But last week, a panel of federal judges in Texas, in a 2-1 vote, blocked the new GOP-favored House map from being used ahead of the 2026 election by declaring it a likely racial gerrymander, dealing a blow to Republicans who had looked to net extra seats. The panel ordered Texas Republicans to use the congressional lines they had in place before they redistricted earlier this year. The new map would have offered a new 5 seats for Republicans. As many Filipinos would agree, the newest popular and easily recognizable name of a Filipino in 2025 is Sara Diskaya, dubbed as the flood control contract queen in social media. Sara Diskaya's collection of luxury automobiles that have been seized by the government after House and Senate investigations resulted in criminal prosecution by the independent investigating body, the ICI. Those cars are now in public auction. Potential bidders and those just curious viewed the cars and had attracted thousands to the place where they are being displayed. Massive corruption relating to flood control projects of the Philippines being administered by the Department of Public Works and Highways resulted in the prosecutions and confiscations of bank accounts of more than 40 individuals, contractors, and government officials in various agencies, including those from the Commission on Audits. At least 2 members in the House of Representatives and 2 in the Senate are also under investigations for their involvement. Ghost projects and substandard projects and unfinished projects that had been reported as finished and paid for by the government has caught the attention of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. during his tour of flooded areas in Luzon earlier this year and asked the legislative branch to investigate. President Marcos appears to be serious about putting those involved punished to the full extent of the law, and seems to have the political will to do it this time after decades and decades of publicly known modus operandi in the public works sector. The Philippines Ombudsman, Crispin Remulla, is continuing its investigation and prosecutions of public officials and is expecting that there will be more who will be made to account. Trump's Justice Department, who are prosecuting the president's enemies and perceived enemies, are getting hiccups and are faltering in court. Last week, a federal judge that is overseeing the criminal case against former FBI Director James Comey, Judge William Fitzpatrick, rebuked the Justice Department over missing grand jury transcripts that were submitted through U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan. Judge Fitzpatrick ordered the Trump administration to turn over the full transcript and recording of the September grand jury presentation by Trump-appointed prosecutor Lindsay Halligan, which he said included instances where she may have made fundamental misstatements of the law that could compromise the grand jury process. Judge Fitzpatrick expressed alarm of what he called a disturbing pattern of profound investigative missteps that may have recessively tainted the prosecution of James Comey and violated the constitutional rights of the former FBI director. He said in a scathing opinion granting Comey's attorney access to a vast trove of grand jury evidence. In that ruling, Fitzpatrick wrote that the court recognizes that the relief sought by the defense is rarely granted. However, the records points to a disturbing pattern of profound investigative missteps that led an FBI agent and a prosecutor to undermine the integrity of the grand jury proceedings. But the DOJ filed a petition to block the Fitzpatrick order of release of grand jury records in a separate federal court. U.S. District Judge Michael Nachmanoff granted a temporary stay in Judge Fitzpatrick's order, but set an oral argument to be scheduled on Wednesday in Alexandria, Virginia that same week, for the prosecution to file an objection to Fitzpatrick's order and Comey's lawyer to file a response by Friday that week. But by Wednesday, according to a CNN report, a prosecutor in the case against James Comey told the court, being presided by Judge Nachmanoff, that the grand jury in the Comey case never reviewed a complete copy of the indictment against the former FBI director. The Justice Department disclosed to the court on Wednesday, and this was the bombshell on the case so far. On that same CNN report, federal prosecutors told Judge Michael Nachmanoff that when the grand jury failed to approve of all counts against Comey, interim U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan merely brought to the grand jurors an altered version of that indictment, and not a new one. Michael Dreeben, an attorney for Comey, told Judge Nachmanoff this indicated that no indictment was returned and that the statute of limitations to charge James Comey had already run out. Judge Nachmanoff told the prosecutors they had until 5 p.m. that Wednesday to respond onto the docket explaining why Halligan failed to present the grand jury with complete and full charges against Comey. We will update you next week's edition what happened next on Judge Nachmanoff's court. Also, in the Trump administration prosecution of New York Attorney General Letitia James, James' lawyer had similarly asked the court to toss out her prosecution on the basis that U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan is not legally qualified to prosecute her, saying she was unlawfully holding that position. This similar argument that has been used by former FBI Director James Comey, but a judge still has to rule on that motion of relief. Meanwhile, the Wisconsin State Judge Hannah Duggan, whom the DOJ is prosecuting for allegedly interfering with ICE and helped an illegal immigrant to escape arrest inside her courtroom, has not responded the DOJ for a plea deal. Attorney for Judge Duggan has not responded to DOJ and may want to proceed with the trial, as many legal experts consider the case as egregious prosecution and is fundamentally a weak case to prosecute. As more veterans and progressives are running for office in the Democratic side, one Navy veteran who is an anti-war advocate is running on Florida's Congressional District 7. Maria Lana Kinter is a veteran of the U.S. Navy who worked in the power plant area of the USS Nimitz in charge of the safety systems of the reactor plant. She is an advocate for wide access benefits for the Veterans Affairs, as well as the modernization and more housing for homeless veterans, including prioritizing mental health and care for veterans going through post-traumatic stress disorder. She was arrested last September at a protest at MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, Florida, against massive military aid for Israel in response to the genocide of Palestinians in Gaza, which she also cited the Arms Export Control Act and the War Crimes Act, in which she called on Congress to reevaluate military aid. She is running on the congressional seat in the Democratic primary, currently held by Republican Congressman Corey Mills, who made headlines and controversy after refusing to pay rent on the luxurious penthouse he stayed in Washington, D.C. Maria Lana openly refuses money backed by corporations and other political action committees, and has received the backing from organizations dedicated towards supporting candidates identified as being against the pro-Israel lobby and against influence of the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee, the political action committee that keeps House members and senators in pro-Israel narratives. In the state of Nevada, the legislature went on special session called by Governor Joe Lombardo in order to tackle some bills the lawmakers were not able to pass during the regular session, which is about 24 weeks or almost 5 months per a given term of 2 years. Governor Lombardo's crime bill passed the Senate. The criminal justice bill, which was a priority for the former Clark County sheriff, would increase penalty for crimes committed in Nevada. But the Democrats, who controls both chambers of the state legislatures, added a new language in the revised version, aiming to reestablish a resort corridor court that was criticized by civil liberties groups, but also incorporating Democratic proposals to restrict immigration enforcement in sensitive locations. The amendments could jeopardize the bill's chances with the Republican governor, who vetoed similar proposals before, and lawmakers introduced an additional bill on the corridor court that could keep the concept alive if the main crime bill is vetoed, according to the reporting from the Nevada Independent. In a 16-2 vote, the state Senate passed Assembly Bill number 4 on Wednesday night, with Senator Dina Neal of North Las Vegas and Senator James Ornshell of Las Vegas both voted no. The amendment adopted early Wednesday, which prohibits school districts and public school from allowing law enforcement from accessing school grounds with a lawful order, except in exceptional circumstances, an idea vetoed by Governor Lombardo earlier this year. It would also require detention facilities such as immigration facilities in the state to maintain a running list of people they hold. The Assembly will still need to vote to adopt the amendment before it is brought to Lombardo's desk. Senator Melanie Scheibel said that the purpose of the amendment is to definitely to address concerns we had about immigration enforcement here in Nevada. Also, during the special session of the Nevada legislature, the state unanimously passed Assembly Bill number 6, or AB 6, known as the School Zone Safety Bill, that will double the penalty and fines for traffic infractions like speeding in school zones or in some places where children are most at risk near their school or place of study. Parents had always complained about lack of enforcement against speeders in school area, and the Las Vegas Police Department and the Clark County School District Police had been responding with zero tolerance against speeders in school zones. We are going to take a commercial break. Please stay tuned for World News when we come back.
Pure Medical Equipment provides top-notch quality medical supply equipment. Whether to rent or buy, Pure Medical Equipment and Supplies has it all.
Pure Medical Equipment is committed to serve and give back to Southern Nevada.
We deliver medical supplies and rentals to your door.
Welcome back to The Pulse. In our world news, in a BBC report, a teacher was slain and 25 girls were abducted during a gun battle at a Nigerian school. According to police, armed men attacked a girls' high school in northwestern Nigeria, killing a teacher and abducting at least 25 students. The gang broke into the government girls' comprehensive secondary school in Maga, Kebbi State at 4 a.m. local time on Monday. The attackers engaged police personnel on duty in a gunfight before jumping the surrounding fence and taking the students from their hostel, according to a statement. One member of staff was killed while attempting to protect students. A second person sustained gunshot wounds and is currently undergoing care. Eyewitnesses described a big number of assailants known locally as bandits who arrived and fired irregularly to create panic. Residents told the BBC that the gunmen then led a group of females into the surrounding forests. The police stated that they had sent additional police tactical units alongside military personnel and vigilante groups to the scene. A concerned search and rescue operation currently underway in the surrounding woodlands and possible escape routes. Over the last decade, armed groups have frequently targeted schools in northern Nigeria, abducting students to demand ransom payments or to make deals with the government. In addition to attempting to crack down on kidnappers, Nigeria has banned the payment of ransoms in an effort to make it less viable. This is the first significant school abduction since March of 2024, when around 200 students were taken from a school in Kuriga, Kaduna State. The attack in Kebbi State illustrates the region's ongoing security situation, leaving Maga families in a state of worry and despair as they wait and hope for their daughter's safe return. The two girls escaped after being kidnapped together with at least 25 other children and a teacher from their boarding school in northwestern Nigeria's Kebbi State on Monday. According to Hosseini Aliyu of Danko Wasago Council, the pair fled as their armed captors led them into the bushes and across farmland. He stated that the girls were back and safe, but one of them required medical attention since she had injured her leg while fleeing. The assault murdered two members of the staff. A teacher was slain while attempting to defend girls, and the security guard died in the hospital from gunshot wounds. A team of military, police, and volunteers is exploring forested regions in an effort to rescue the captives kidnapped by gunmen. You must continue to battle day and night. We must find these children, said Maj Gen Wade Shaibu, Nigeria's Army Chief of Staff, an order to troops sent to Kebbi State. From Bangladesh, Al Jazeera reports that a verdict from a special court found former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina guilty in murders and the disappearance of students and protesters during his reign. Justice only when Hasina is hanged, says Bangladesh victims' families, following the verdict. As hundreds of families who lost loved ones in the 2024 protests celebrate the verdict, many question whether the former prime leader will face justice. Shahina Begum burst into tears after a special court in the capital Dhaka condemned the deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and her close aide, former Home Minister Hasaduzaman Khan, to death for crimes against humanity. Begum's 20-year-old son, Sajat Hussain Sujal, was shot and his body burned by police on August 5 of 2024, just hours before a student-led movement forced Hasina to quit and depart the country she had ruled with an iron fist for 15 years. Prosecutors claim that 6 student demonstrators were killed that day in Ashulia, a ready-made garments hub on the outskirts of Dhaka. 5 were shot and their remains burned, and 1 was allegedly burned alive inside a police station. The deaths allegedly ordered by Hasina in a desperate bid to retain power were part of a horrific crackdown by security forces on what is known in Bangladesh as the July Uprising, which claimed the lives of over 1,400 demonstrators, according to the United Nations. After months-long trial held in absentia because Hasina and Khan had fled to neighboring India, Dhaka's International Crimes Tribunal sentenced the 2 to death on Monday, while a 3rd accused former police chief Chaudhry Abdullah Al-Mamun was sentenced to 5 years in prison for turning state witness. "I cannot come until she is brought back and hanged in this country," Begum told Al Jazeera on Monday night, as the historic verdict sparked a wave of emotion throughout the country of 170 million people. There are uncertainties over whether Hasina's staunch friend throughout her 15-year dictatorship would extradite her and Khan, or if it would instead assist them in escaping prosecution. We are almost out of time for this broadcast. Please join us again next week here at The Pulse. I'm Joe Boban. God bless your week.